everyone, and welcome to another episode of Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Laurabel. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that's very near and dear to my heart, a campaign currently called Fund MUN. For today's guests, I'm going to be joined by Nicolas Keough, who is the Director of External Affairs at MUNFA. I'm also going to be joined by Lepawsky, who is the past president of MUNFA. So sit back, relax, and we'll figure out exactly what we're funding MUN for.
Your opinion matters, and we want to hear from you. Get in touch with us using our viewer feedback line, your direct connection to shaping the shows you love. It's easy. Just grab your phone, scan the QR code on your screen, and take our quick survey. Share your thoughts, and let's make your viewing experience even better.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm now joined by Lepawsky, who is the past president of MUNFA. Josh, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I'm really excited to have you here because we had the opportunity earlier to talk to Nicolas Keough of MUNFA about the Fund MUN campaign, but I wanted to get a faculty perspective about what is going on with this campaign and why it's so important to faculty as well. So could you let us know a little bit about that?
Sure. So the Fund MUN campaign is about getting the university funded adequately again. We're really not demanding more money. We're really demanding to be put back where we were 10 years ago. Okay. Funding cuts have been ongoing literally for a decade, to the point that we're down almost 47% in total funding in inflation adjusted money, dollars.
Yep. Yeah. So when people think about funding MUN, they usually think about the infrastructure and all that, but what does it actually mean on a faculty end? What do these cuts mean in the way you're able to do your job?
Yeah, these cuts definitely have implications for the infrastructure, but also for the people who perform the core mission of the university, the faculty and other staff who do the research, do the teaching, do the service. And when funding is cut, it means very concrete things like renewal of faculty lines don't happen. That means departments shrink. That means there's fewer people to do the research, to do the teaching, to do the service. That means, students paying more and literally getting less. Wow. It also means increased workloads for those that do have positions there, right? When positions aren't renewed or administrative staff are cut, faculty become responsible not only for core mission things like research and teaching, but they also become grant managers, budget managers, wow. Right? Where we have to keep track of flows of funds and do travel claims and all of these kinds of things for grad students, all this kind of stuff. And there's only so many hours in a day.
Absolutely.
So, our job, as I say, the core is to do the research and the teaching, but as there are fewer and fewer of us, there's more of that work is downloaded to faculty. Or the other sort of strategy that the university is taking is to hire more and more contingent faculty, which means they are on short-term contracts, and that has very serious knock-on consequences for the very meaning of a university, where things like academic freedom are a core principle. The contingent faculty at MUN, they do have academic freedom in their contract, but unlike tenure stream or tenured faculty, all that has to happen is for their contract to simply not be renewed, and that idea of academic freedom is out the window. So as more and more contingent faculty are used to fill those gaps, the real nature of a public university also changes, and in negative directions.
So as this call has been going out, what has been the kind of reception you have felt either from the government and or community as you've been out with this call?
Well, the strike in 2023 showed us that we have a huge amount of support amongst the community, and that was incredible to see. I don't think faculty take that for granted. I think initially we were surprised by it, but of course it was a huge boost for us. From government, really successive governments will publicly celebrate MUN. I mean, the premier was just at an event last week celebrating various alumni. So they'll do that performance of celebrating excellence of the institution, but successive governments have taken away funding. So they're either unwilling or lack the courage to maintain that infrastructure that was built, let's remember, to memorialize the Newfoundlanders and Labradorians who were killed in 2 world wars, and that it is the university is a memorial for which the freedom to learn was understood as, the appropriate way to carry on that memory. And so when government after government after government takes that funding away, it just flies in the face of that responsibility to uphold that memory.
So we get to see in their actions that they're not exactly matching it when they are out publicly celebrating the university. What has been the verbal or written feedback they've given when you have put out these pleas for funding?
Yeah. So far, the faculty union has attempted on multiple occasions to gain meetings with government officials and have really, over, I would say, the last, 5 years, really only managed to get one.
Wow.
We've had, we've made concrete attempts and repeated attempts, but to no avail so far. And it's unfortunate that faculty are having to take on this. This really is advocating for the public university really is a university administrator's, president's job. And I'm sure it's no surprise to your audience members that, the upper administration of this university has been, going through a very tumultuous time over the last few years. But MUN faculty have been confronted with an administration who has said to us, to our faces, it's not our job to advocate, we must be neutral. And that just flies in the face of what university leadership is.
I was like, that seems like an interesting take, considering aren't they supposed to be your first line of defense when something like this happens from a governmental body?
That's right, that's right. And part of the problem here is that so much of upper administration is in those positions on a temporary basis.
Wow.
And that's still the case. President, vice, provost, et cetera, at least half of senior administrators are, the fancy words are pro tempore, basically temporary positions. And, it just, from a faculty perspective, it really just feels like a ship adrift. Faculty do not have, except for academic matters, we have no levers that we can pull from an administrative side of things that would, try to right the ship, as it were. And so that's part of what Fund MUN is about, is us understanding that no one is coming to save us but us. Yeah. And so we're going to have to build the levers and pull them ourselves.
So I'm going to ask an interesting question. So we have this thing called the MUN Board of Regents. What role do they have? Typically, there used to be a faculty that sat on, a member that sat on the Board of Regents. Are they joining in this cause, or have they left the faculty on their own for this?
Yeah, so the Board of Regents is a really important body, and it gets outside the university community. This gets really murky. It's even murky for myself, who works there. But the Board of Regents actually, up until the strike of 2023, had no faculty representation. In fact, we were legally barred from having representation on it. That's part of the provincial legislation that governs the university. Partly as a consequence of our strike action, the government of the day said, okay, fine, you can have 2 seats on the Board of Regents, meaning faculty. Yeah. So we got those, but only on a sort of ad hoc basis. So it was sort of a one-off, and the government said, you have to give us a list of names and we will choose them. So there was no process, no democratic process put in place to select those. those people, and there's been no process put in place to make sure that those seats are renewed. So once these seats have a term of 3 years, so 1 year from now, those terms will be up. There is nothing in place from a legislative change point of view that creates a mechanism that means we will have representation after next year. So it could be going away for all we know.
Wow.
Anyway, that's getting into the weeds, I know, but the Board of Regents is crucial in that that's the body that makes the so-called business or financial decisions for the university. And so historically, faculty have been completely shut out of that.
Wow.
And it's only been for the last, let's say, year and a half that we've had any representation on that board. So you can imagine there's a huge amount of history and momentum that we've had no ability to shape.
Yeah.
And going forward, there's really no guarantee we're going to have any impact unless government takes the initiative to change the MUN Act, which is something we've been advocating for literally for years, going back several formal reports on the state of higher education in the province and so on and so forth. So it's not like the Faculty Association hasn't been constantly advocating for it, but this is one of those things where we have no mechanism or channel to really make that change ourselves.
So I got you for about 1 minute. So if there was a plea you could put out to community on how we can support in your work of advocacy, what would it be?
Go to fundmun.ca. There's a button, it's a website, has a button that will help you contact your specific provincial representative and send a message to them indicating that you support renewed funding for the university. It takes 30 seconds or less. There's other things you can do. They're on that webpage, but that's the start. Government really needs to hear from all of us as citizens to support this public institution.
And I think this is very relevant. We have a potential election year coming up.
Absolutely.
So this is a chance for us to have real life impact on the things that affect our province and our university as a whole.
That's right, that's right. This is something that you can individually get involved with and really make a difference.
I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your extra busy schedules, looking at the predicament we have on our hands right now, and coming to share with us the importance of this Fund MUN campaign and the role we all play in supporting the university.
Not at all, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
And we'll be right back, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm now joined by Nicolas Keough, who is the Director of External Affairs at Memorial University Student Union, otherwise known as MUNFA. Nick, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So you and I have chatted before, but you're here for a very special reason because we're talking about the call to fund MUN that MUNFA has been advocating for. So for our viewers who might not know what's going on, what is the current situation at Memorial University?
Yeah, so I've been here before talking about tuition increases and the fact that enrollment is dropping and the food bank. There's a lot of things for students that are an issue. There's also crumbling infrastructure that we're seeing more recently, but that still has been an issue for a while. But we've talked with other unions on campus, with MUNFA, with Keough, NAPE, and we have come to the conclusion that there's been a 46.5% cut to provincial funding to Memorial since 2013. So over the last 11 years, funding has been cut by almost half when you include inflation into that calculation and then when you don't include the medical school. And that's obviously a huge blow to the university as a whole, and it's really difficult for anyone to be able to run a university on such a limited budget. So we have gotten every single union on campus together to join the call to fund MUN, and we have a website, fundmun.ca, which allows people to go in and share their story, to send pictures of crumbling infrastructure or the issues that they have with high tuition or the issues they have with programs being cut, funding being cut for research, different things, because it impacts everyone. It impacts students, it impacts faculty, different departments, it impacts workers who are non-academic as well. But it's really important. We see in every single corner of the university, these funding cuts are having an extremely negative impact.
So the university is approaching 100 years right now, and you're saying that in the last 10, there's been a 50% reduction in funding that's been provided to the university. When you have put out this call to fund MUN, what has the feedback been, not from the unions that are also rallying behind you, but from the government as well?
Well, from the community, we've had a lot of positive feedback. We've had a lot of people call in, email us, talk to us, say that they agree with what we're talking about, that the university is a really important part of the province and a part of the future of the province, the longevity of the province. From government, we've seen less of a reaction. We met with MUNFA specifically, not the Fund MUN campaign coalition. We've met with the NDP leader, Jim Din, and we met with the PC leader, Tony Wakeham. And just recently we met with the alternate Minister of Education right now because Krista Lynn Howell is on maternity leave. We met with John Haggie, and that was not a super fruitful conversation. Okay. We didn't receive any commitments, but we did receive commitments from the PCs and from the NDP to investigate reinvesting it in Memorial University. And specifically, we were talking a lot with the PCs about having these allocated funds towards infrastructure, towards tuition, towards things that really impact the people who go to the university. Because I think a huge part of what government, specifically, the Premier and the Liberal government likes to do is blame the university administration, especially because of the recent Auditor General's report. It's pretty easy to blame administration for misspending and for not using the funds that government has been giving them. And I think it's really important also to understand that regardless of whose fault it is that we're in this situation, the situation is impacting those who didn't have a say in causing it, such as students and faculty and workers. And government needs to step in to make sure that these people are not affected by these extreme budget cuts.
So I know infrastructure is one of the big things that you're advocating for to have adequately funded, just because as things get old, they begin to deteriorate. So what is the situation when the government we have the new science building that was started, but we still have like the business building, which from my time had not been renovated in a while. We have the MUNL system, and anyone who knows the MUNLs knows what to expect when we're talking about the MUNL system. So what is the feedback that you're hearing from people when they say, oh, there was like money for this, but they're not funding deteriorating infrastructure?
Yeah, it's something that's really concerning to us, and we've talked to administration about it, especially because it does present a safety concern in some circumstances, especially in the MUNLs with all the asbestos abatement that's constantly happening and the random brown goo that we've been posting pictures of, and FundMun, there's a few pictures on the website as well. There's buckets just to catch leaks, and especially in the residence tunnels, it's really bad. Honestly, we've been hearing pretty mixed feedback, but the university administration is, I think this year, it's been a struggle in the past, but this year they haven't fully come on board, but they have at least admitted that funding cuts have really negatively impacted. And I think regardless of whether or not it was a good idea to build a new science building at the time, we have $481 million, in deferred maintenance needs at the university, and we're currently getting $6.5 million from the provincial government every year, if I'm correct, to fix that. So we're not in any way sufficiently funded by the provincial government, despite the fact that absolutely, I think the provincial government is correct. We are one of the most highly funded, highly subsidized universities in the country, but I think it's really important to recognize that Memorial University was created on the basis of providing education to the people of the province, and as a public university, and specifically as the only public university in the province. It serves a different role than other universities in the country, and I think we need to see government reinvest in that.
So as you've been working on this campaign and you've gotten the coalition together, what feedback are you hearing from your other coalition members? Where are they seeing issues with the funding that's being allocated to the university?
Yeah, faculty and staff are absolutely seeing different issues. You know, we see maintenance staff, obviously they have to deal with the infrastructure firsthand, but faculty and the per course instructors as well are seeing major cuts to the different departments, especially the humanities and the smaller departments. They're becoming even smaller. Wow. And we're seeing the funding cuts negatively impact them, and then that in turn impacts students because there are now less labs that are offered in first year courses for science courses than even when I was in first year. Wow. And there are also less hours available at the help center. We see teaching assistants get their hours cut because there's less funding. They fought for higher wages and now their hours are cut. And wow. So we're seeing really across the board, every single department, or every single union, every single different member of the university community, we're seeing these issues.
So what information there can the community, the greater Newfoundland and Labrador community, because I know people think if you don't go to MUN, this isn't an issue for you, but if you are in any way connected to the university, this does become an issue for you. So what support do you as a union and as a coalition need from us as a community?
Well, first off, I'd like to say exactly why it's important for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and anybody who cares about the future of the province to be helping us with this. I think it's very clear the impact that Memorial University has had on the province, and especially in the last 20-25 years with the tuition freeze and with the increased government funding that we've seen. It's really helped us with our immigration. There's been a lot more immigration, there's been more international students, and we've seen higher enrollment rates and just better education levels in the province. It's really important for the future of the province to have a public post-secondary education system, and we are worried that that's actually going to go down the drain if government doesn't do something and step in. What people can do, what any community member can do, is go to fundmun.ca, which is our website, and they can use a click-to-email tool, which sends an email to their MHA and to the Premier and to the Minister of Education, calling for them to reinvest in Memorial University.
I was also looking recently, this is the first year enrollment has gone down in the university, isn't it?
No.
Okay.
No. This is the third year in a row.
The third year in a row that we have seen enrollment go down.
Yes.
So this is seriously beginning to have an impact on
yes.
not just the infrastructure, but the student body and the student
yes.
population.
Yeah.
Oh my
I think
goodness.
the first year thing that you're thinking of is the total enrollment.
Yes.
But the first year enrollment we saw 2 years ago, there was a 20% or almost 20%, it was 19.1% decrease
wow.
in first year enrollment in undergrads. So we knew it was coming because 2 years ago was when the tuition freeze was lifted yep. and the tuition hike happened. So we saw a drastic decrease in the amount of students that were able to come to Memorial. So we knew that a drastic decrease was coming. And now we see a 15% decrease in international students this year, and
wow.
we see 5% decrease, over 5% overall. And we are also seeing, for the first time in over 40 years, undergraduate students, there's less than 13,000. It's the first time since 1980, since the 1980s. It's been 41 years.
Wow. So when you're saying Fund Mon, it's not just because it's a rhyming logo, it's a rhyming slogan. It's because the university desperately needs to be funded for the impact it has in our province, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we can see, like, that was really jarring to me when, I think it was the Muse that reported it, but it was over 40 years since enrollment had been this low at the university, and we've been seeing it cut, or we've been seeing a decrease every single year since the tuition freeze was lifted.
And so if the government is listening, and let's say they're watching Out of the Fog right now and they're listening to this play, what would you like to ask them to do? Because Fund Mon is a very broad slogan, what are some key things that definitely need some funding?
Well, we need to see funding for tuition offset. Students are really struggling with the cost of living and with the housing crisis right now, and we need to see tuition be reduced. So the best way for government to do that is to specifically put funds into tuition offset, tuition relief. That's something that they can do without giving money to the university. I think that's a concern for folks, giving extra money to the university that has been known to mismanage funds. But the government can put direct funds allocated into tuition relief, and also they can put direct funds into infrastructure. I think that's something that's really important. We need to see direct funds, direct grants go into these things.
I know this is a much broader conversation that we could have for multiple hours. For those who are looking for information about MUNFA and how they can get in contact about how they can support this program, where do we go?
Yeah, you can go to fundmon.ca, and that will give you all the information that you need. It'll give you an update about, you know, who we are, about what you can do to get involved, and about how you can share your story.
I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you have a meeting to run to continue to advocate on this behalf, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be right back, everyone.
Your opinion matters, and we want to hear from you. Get in touch with us using our viewer feedback line, your direct connection to shaping the shows you love. It's easy. Just grab your phone, scan the QR code on your screen, and take our quick survey. Share your thoughts, and let's make your viewing experience even better.
I want to thank all of you for tuning in again today for this very important episode. I want to give a very special thank you to my guests, Nick and Josh, for talking about why it's important to keep Newfoundland and Labrador's public university well-funded. If you have any questions or any interest in what they had to talk about, make sure to check out fundmun.ca to send a letter to your local MHA and figure out exactly what you're keeping MUN funded for. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you all again next time.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
We want to hear from you. Provide feedback on this show or find out how you can get involved. Call, email us, or scan the QR code to take our quick survey.
All crew. This is my favorite part. You see that jagged rock? They say it's haunted by mermaids.
To be a yachty, you need to have thick skin. I thought I was doing the right thing.
It's a bit harsh.
You need to stop.
Does anyone know where Steph is? Get him back here, now!
Gary seems to be giving me the attention that I need.
Oh, here we go. The only person who should be crying on this boat is me.
Below Deck Sailing Yacht, all new Mondays at 9 on Bravo or streaming on City TV+.
We invite you to play What's My Line?
Welcome, Mrs. Baker. Those folks over there need to guess your extraordinary occupation.
Are you an entertainer, Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Do people come to watch you, perform?
Yes. Do you travel for work? Yes, I do.
Do you ever wear a special type of costume?
Yes.
Is your job, physical?
Yes, indeed.
Are you a member of a team?
Yes.
Are you a professional baseball player?
Yes, I am.
Created during the Second World War, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League included 68 Canadians. One of its brightest stars was my mother, Saskatchewan's Mary Bonnie Baker, a pioneer for women in sports.